Hi, I'm Chris Slogar. I'm an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator, and you can find me online at buckeyeinklings.com. I use all products from Stampin' Up!, so if you see anything that you need, I would love to have your support there. There's a link to the online store, and again, that's buckeyeinklings.com. So today I have a gift for a grad, and I like to give for graduations probably most often checks or cash, so I like a longer envelope versus gift card envelope. So this is modeled after those coin envelopes that have a button and string closure, and I've made it with the gift bag punch board, and then inside I just have like a long pocket for money or a check. So this is actually like two little projects. Let's start with the envelope and then we'll make this inside piece. I've pre-done a few of the steps so that we don't take too long, but to start, the envelope, I have made mine with the Kraft Cardstock. Now that is thick for an envelope and it works fine and I like the look of it, but you could easily use designer paper or the envelope weight paper and vary it for, you know, school colors or what have you. But my Kraft Cardstock to start measures 11.5 inches by 8 inches, and I've got the 8-inch side along the top edge of my scoring tool, and I'm scoring at 2.5 and 6 1/4. Okay, so that's all we need that for, and then we're going to grab the gift bag punch board, okay, and using those score lines, I'm just going to line that score line up with the pointer and put that in place and punch, and then score along that horizontal line there and go to the next score line that we made and punch and get that started scoring too. It might not be the whole dimension, but just enough to get it, to get an idea of where that score line needs to be. And I'm also moving down to the end flap and just scoring there too, so I have a horizontal line. Okay, I'm going to flip around. I'm going to do the same thing at each score line on the other side. And let me get a little bit started on that flap. Okay. So there we have the basic. You can kind of see this coming together now because the flaps, the flap shape is there, and I'm just going to burnish these edges. And this will be the envelope. I've offset the seam so that we can get that button closure in easily through just one layer of the cardstock. And anyway, that's kind of how these coin envelopes look if you look at them. So for the bottom, I'm going to cut off the portion of the flap that would, well, I'll just show you, above the score line here. So I'm cutting off the score line, cutting a little bit inside of it so that we can make this bottom flap close over that nicely, and that score line doesn't get in the way. So we're going to cut on both sides inside that score line. Okay, and you'll see then that comes together with room for this to fold over it, and that doesn't get in the way of the fold. Okay, at the top edge, these are typically, I don't know if you can see this, a little bit angled. You can see there. So I'm just hand cutting that. We've got our score line there as a guide, and I'm just going to hand cut a slight angle there, and both sides, and sort of eyeball this. Now, oh, that's pretty good. I might go a little deeper on this one. You can just eyeball it and cut a little more away until you're happy with it. Okay, yeah, that looks good. So what I'm going to do to put the envelope together now, I'm just going to take my fast fuse because that's quick. Whatever you have, either the liquid glue or fast fuse or sticky strip, I'm going to put it down the length of this seam. And also along, ooh, why don't you know I got to the end of my fast fuse on tape. Okay, so, all right, we'll say that's good enough. So we have this, and we need to just make this button and string closure. I have already punched 3 3/4 inch circles. And what I'm going to do, now you could have tried to figure this out ahead of time before enclosing your envelope, but I like to do it. I think it's easier to see after the fact. And I know, I'm just going to mark this because I know I want my button about 2 inches below that top fold, and I'm sorry, the score line. And this is 3 3/4 inches wide, so 1 7/8 would be half of that. Now, to pierce, I'm going to pierce against a craft stick here, just because I don't have any kind of mat that will fit in there, and then kind of drill out that hole. Alright, and then on the top flap, I'm also going to throw this ruler on because you know how it is. You can always see if something wasn't centered after the fact. So again, at about 1 7/8, and I'm going not quite halfway up the flap. I'm going to make my hole. Now this time I can just put my pierce mat under there. Okay, oh, and also on each of these 3/4 inch circles, if you pierce the center, then you can easily thread through. I've just got some black brads from a craft store since we don't sell those, and I found I could get in here well enough. And again, like I said, you could figure out this placement ahead of time, but I found that I can reach and get that brad in place after the envelope's assembled, and I think that's easier to see. Okay, so I've got another brad for the piece that'll go on the flap, and I've got a 12-inch length of our black solid baker's twine, and I'm just going to tie a knot and get that end fixed in place there, and then go through, and I think it just looks a little cleaner having this backing in place, so I've added that third 3/4 inch circle here. Okay, so there you've got your button and string closure. Okay, and so now what's left is to decorate the front. Now, I've used large numbers, the large numbers framelits, and I've already got these pieces ready. To get some dimension here, I cut first fun foam. So I have, just from the craft store, a 2mm thickness of fun foam. And this cuts just fine with the framelits. So I cut the numbers first with fun foam, and then my theme of colors here is from the Urban Underground paper. So I've got a bit of the designer paper, and I'm just gluing those together for my numbers. So I've already done some of these. I've just glued the designer paper to the fun foam just with my Tombow glue. I'll do the last one here. And it's kind of nice to use the Tombow glue because when you're putting these together, you've got a little bit of time to slip them into alignment. Okay, we'll let that one dry a bit. And in the meantime, I've got the background pieces, the matted pieces, again a piece of the Urban Underground, the Delightful Dijon that goes with it, and a black mat. So the black mat measures 5.5 inches by 3.25. The Delightful Dijon is 5.25 by 3 inches. And then the designer paper is 5 inches by 2 3/4. Okay, so I'm going to put those together. And then I'm going to add the numbers. Okay, and a little ruler is handy to get them lined up straight. And make sure you put them down in the right order. I'll show you why in a second. So I'm just going to glue these numbers in place. Okay, and I did find that this sticks really tight with the green Tombow glue. Okay, and then I have a little length of ribbon. This is the Delightful Dijon striped ribbon. And I'm just going to kind of place that. And I've got a star, this is from our star punch. I think it's a medium star punch, but it is a punch. Just going to kind of get that in place and take my stapler and get it lined up, and then do it decisively to get through all that, because that is thick, but the stapler will go through it all. Okay, now you can place this either at the center of the envelope, or I have this example. I was pretty excited about this. I put it down to a side and did a to from, and then I realized, do you see what's wrong with it? I had the numbers in the wrong order. And let me tell you, I tried to move them and they're really stuck tight with that Tombow glue. But anyway, this will give you an example of what it looks like if you want to do a little to from. And I used labeler alphabet to do my to from there. So okay, so that is basically, here we can make that a wrap on the envelope. And now let's do the inside piece. Is fairly simple. I just started, now I've pre-cut this. The basic black started as a piece that was 11 inches by 3 3/8. And I already cut with the Star Blast Framelit the top edge. So I just put the stars right up to the top of that 11 inch and centered that. And this is also scored 2 3/8 inch from the bottom edge. So I'm just going to fold that up. And then I have a piece of Very Vanilla to back that with, because that just gives you something to pull it out of the envelope, a little more substantial. The Very Vanilla is 8.5 inches by 3 3/8. So I'm going to glue this basic black to the Very Vanilla, and when you get up in these smaller areas, just get some key places. Might be helpful to pull out your fine tip glue. I'm just going to do it here with the Tombow for now. And we're going to line this up with the vanilla and put that together. Okay, give it a second to catch. Now the bottom is just held shut by this length of designer paper. This measures 2 inches by 8 inches, and I just used it as a band around this bottom fold so that we're not taking away any space from the pocket. Okay, so I'm just going to fold this band around the pocket and adhere it down in the back. Alright, so there we have that much. And then what I did this ahead of time. This is a stamp, Congratulations Graduate, from Sweet Sentiments in our Occasions catalog, and I've stamped it on Very Vanilla and cut it out with one of the framelits from Tags and Labels, and I'm layering it with another shape slightly larger from that same set in Delightful Dijon. You could do a little rectangle, or if you have other punches that fit that stamp, that would work too. But I'm just fixing that all with my Tombow glue, and there we have the pocket piece. Okay, and where's our envelope? So that slides right in and then wraps up. So this, I think, is a great way to give money, and like I said, you could slide it in a business envelope if you want. I have another video from previous years, another standby. I'll link it on today's post. That will be Monday, March 20th, the post on Buckeye Inklings that shows another example of a graduation project that's been very popular for me. I make a lot, but I hope you've enjoyed this and give it a try, and I guess that's it. Thanks so much.